I'll call this meeting to order, joint meeting of DPW Subcommittee and Town Council. Today is Monday, May 15th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the Veterans Room. Roll call, Councilor Steves.
Here.
Councilor Dow.
Here.
Councilor Marquetti is here. Mr. Splain.
Here.
And Mr. Lazo is absent. Consider and approve joint DPW Town Council meeting minutes of May 1st, 2023.
Motion. Second.
Everybody have a chance to look at them? They look okay?
Yes. Thank you.
You good, Councilor Dow?
Yeah.
All right. All those in favor? Thank you. Agenda item number 4, citizens forum. Anybody want to bring up anything that's not on the agenda? Roland.
Yes, good evening. Roland La Rochelle, Briarwood Avenue. Tonight, I wanted to bring up sidewalks. I saw which is not unusual when the DPW workers do a job, they do a top shelf job no matter what they're doing. And I saw the sidewalk was replaced from Everett Street all the way down to the old Elks. My question, how is it determined in the town of Southbridge and what sidewalks get done?
Okay.
My wife, as most of you know, fell on the sidewalk in front of Cornerstone Bank in December. I came to the town hall. She did it on a Friday. I came to the town hall on a Monday. Went to the past, and I want to make it clear, the past town manager's office, and asked to fill out a incident report. I might have been talking some foreign language because the girls were very confused. They knew nothing about it. They called DPW. They were given the answer that we don't have one. Go down and fill something out with Maddie. I went to the clerk's office and she said, just put a summary in writing. I can't believe that the town does not have a standard incident report. It has been since December. I sent pictures. I have a report from, and I don't know where my report went. I have a report from Maya, and the gentleman that was assigned the case writes, we have completed our investigation and we see no legal liability for injuries your client sustained while walking on the sidewalk at 253-257 Main. A, quote, defect or want of repair, unquote, in a public way as established by mass law through the years is defined as anything in the state or condition of the way that renders it unsafe, inconvenient for ordinary travel. Perfection, however, is not required. I hope to hell his wife never walks on that sidewalk, trips, and ends up getting partially disabled. Because my wife is still going to PT. There is a 3/8 inch rise at an expansion joint that she hit. She still cannot pick up our grandson without pain. That is probably one of the most heavily traveled sidewalks in our downtown Main Street. And I want to say it has nothing to do with this DPW director because this is all prior. I can't believe, like I told the girls at the town manager's office, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on Main Street and they do little slots here and there on the sidewalks that they had to do instead of fixing them. That's like getting a facelift on half your face, in my opinion. I've been a citizen and a taxpayer my whole life. The report states from Maya that we believe that the area in question had only a slight imperfection and would not qualify as a defect. Let's talk about talking out of both sides of your face. We luckily pay for our insurance. We have good insurance. We have not had to pay anything out of pocket. This form did come with forms if you had to pay out of pocket. That's also Mass General Law. And we are not ones to live our lives on frivolous lawsuits or anything. But I know the town is liable for $5,000 on out-of-pocket costs. That's not why I'm bringing this up. It's been like that. One of the bank tellers tripped on the same spot. This has been looked into. I even heard that Jerry tripped and fell. My question is, how do we pick the sidewalks and the items that town property to be repaired? Was there any incident reports filed on down by the credit union? I will tell you, in front of the new credit union, yeah, the sidewalk was nasty. But in front of the vacant credit union, I don't know. Personally, I don't care. I am very upset of what my wife and my family had to go through. She was out of work in the swing and swath for a month. That was a one-income family. I didn't get any break in my taxes. She couldn't take a shower. I didn't get any break in my water sewer. She's still going to PT. What does it take? Or did the wrong person trip on the sidewalk? I don't know how it's determined on how we prioritize what. That's my question.
Okay. Well, I'll just ask the DPW director to please look into that sidewalk and see if it can be extended, because I have walked down there as well, a large crack there. So if you could take a look
Now,
at
it's
it.
a rise in, I don't know where the report went. There's pictures. You know, I put a flat edge on that slab, and 3 inches away from the expansion joint, it's up almost 3/4 of an inch.
I don't know how it's determined which sidewalks. We've asked for a town-wide, take a look at all the sidewalks, start repairing sidewalks. It's just a matter of.
And that's my point, Mike.
Yeah.
I went through, I believe, the right process.
Right.
Went to the town manager's office. I filed a summary. I don't know if they want you to file a summary and say things before you get an attorney. I don't know. We had a lawyer sitting in the Oval Office upstairs, and the town does not have a standard incident report. I
Alright.
could not believe that. I filed a report. I submitted pictures. Maya got everything they wanted. They even asked for more pictures, which I submitted. Where that went within this building is beyond me. I have no clue. But if our new DPW director doesn't know, and I'm not saying he does or doesn't, but the point being is that, where does this stuff go? How can you make an accurate assessment? If they're gonna redo a road, they do a traffic study. You know, in front of that bank, if this was a 90-year-old lady that fell down, broke a hip, one of the funeral parlors would be having some more services.
Okay, all right,
We know that, but
all right.
you know, how is it determined? Or, you know,
All
let's
right.
face it, or is it the P word, politics?
I'll ask him to look into it. I really don't have an answer how it's determined, but as I said, we've asked them to look at town-wide, all the sidewalks and our roads. We're trying to get to them best we can, so. All right, is that it? All right, thank you. Mr. Swain?
I agree with Mr. Larochelle. I've been asking for over a year on how much money is in our sidewalk accounts. I asked last meeting, the meeting before that, and previous meetings, how much money is in that account. I've heard from $0 to $124,000. We need to do something with these sidewalks in town, and we need to figure out a plan of what's top priority and what's not. I have to agree with them 100%. We keep, and I'm gonna say it again, I say it in numerous meetings, we keep asking questions, we do not get answers.
Well, the last time I had a document was last year, and there was only $32,000 left in there, but I don't know if that's been depleted yet. I know that our next budget, they're increasing it again, so that's the last I had.
And I'm not saying anything against the new DPW director, he's just coming into it now.
Right.
It's not him,
Yep.
but we keep asking and we don't get the answers.
Okay. Counselor Lazo?
Just a quick statement. One, what used to happen was DPW, this has nothing to do with the DPW director that we have now, nor the town manager sitting in the seat right now. We had an incident on Glover Street. 4 years prior, lady tripped on the sidewalk and called it in as an incident report, and they went there and they painted orange lines on where the differential was in the sidewalk. And there was money in the sidewalk account in that year, the year after, in the year that, finally the lady sends me a picture with her face caved in because she pulled her head up. And it was in front of a veteran's house, and he has tripped, and I don't know what it takes to get it done, but we got it done. Plenty of counselors were up in arms about, we walked over there and all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, this wasn't a differential. This looked like a bomb went off on the sidewalk. Another complaint we got on Benefit Street, there was a 5-inch differential in the sidewalk. I went down there, matter of fact, I think Councilman Marquetti were with me, and there was a differential in the sidewalk, and there was a telephone pole there. I don't know how anybody would ever walk on the sidewalk. So what we would do is, if somebody called us, we'd go and see it, and then after we would stand behind the incident report that was filed. But to say the last DPW director had a different concept of how to handle it, it really didn't get done. It was marked for safety, but never replaced. And then when we turned around and we all, I think the year Councilor Adams got elected, I got elected the following year, we made roads and sidewalks a priority financially. To get roads done, to get sidewalks done, there's a road plan. I'm sure there's a sidewalk plan also on a shelf somewhere. We did plenty of studies. It was a matter of money, manpower, and getting it done. I give the DPW director a kudo on the way he handled the Main Street removal and pouring. Saved the town a lot of money by removing it themselves instead of having a contractor remove it, pour it. I mean, he's got a different approach. So moving forward, looking at the past, we've learned. Going for the future, Mr. LaRoche has a valid point. It might, depending on the differential, it might be a grind of the high spot, or it might be, removal of the sinking portion. And that's something that, the DPW would have to go take a look at to figure out what the cure is for it. But there is, when someone falls, that's usually the first indication there's a problem. Pretty obvious.
Right. Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Benoit?
So to answer the question about funding, shows here that the original budget for sidewalks for this year was $10,000. That's currently at $0. The proposed in the new budget is $20,000. The work that we've been completing recently is that we've been using RAP funding, trying to expend some of those funds before we lose them and get as much done as we can.
All right, thank you. Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Marquetti, through you. I don't know why we keep removing money was pointed to certain things, to other job. Like the sidewalk, I think it was a good portion of money, like 123,000, I remember, and then it was transferred to different account. Why we keep moving money from account to account, not we using it what we're specific put it to? Why we complain with the money from this account to this account, from this road to this road? Why we keep doing this, and who authorized that to be done like that?
I think some of the funds were moved to those flashing beacons, and that was proposed by Heather and Ms. Dean, and the council approved it.
Isn't it was a grant for that?
Not all of it, some of it, I think. I think some of it was a grant, but money was also moved from the sidewalk funds, because they are sitting on the sidewalk.
That was great.
Yep.
Most of it was good.
But like I said, you're right, it was about 124,000, and then I'm talking about the capital budget. And then it was, expenses was 92, so according to last year, not quite a year ago, there was 32,000 left in there, but I don't know if that's been depleted yet, I really don't know. This is the last report I got. All right? Okay, if there's nothing else,
Just real quick, Mr. Chair.
go ahead,
Just-
Councilor Evans.
I've talked to Christine about getting an update. She's trying to find where Karen had this Excel spreadsheet before, or under the Munis system. So she's still looking for it. I'm following up with her. But you're right. Let me just throw it out there. 2018, 2019, we did the budget.
Right.
We found all this capital money that never got spent. So the police chief was trying to piecemeal all of his radios together, right? It was a 10-year, 10 radios over, 10-year period. Found all this extra cash that was, we tried to give it to the DPW at the time. They had still $60,000 in their capital. Made it very clear, we cannot spend that money in 1 year. So what we did, based on that recommendation from the DPW director at the time, we went ahead and purchased all the radios that were seriously needed for the police department. How that number continues to go down or not request, I don't know. But I will tell you, that money was there. We tried to give more money, and it got turned away from 2019. Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
welcome. Mr. Shaggy?
Off the subject though, I mean, we continue to do that. We put money in capital accounts to have projects done, and they don't get done. I'll use an example. Last year I came to capital meeting, and I'm not sure if it was this budget, this group, or general government, but they appropriated $150,000 to do doors and windows at the senior center that needed to be done right away. And here we are, we're going to be coming to the end of the fiscal year, and the doors and windows are still not completed. And it was said that the blame was put on everybody. That the reason it wasn't getting done. They blamed DPW, they blamed, the senior director, they blamed this one. But we put $150,000 to sit in the account that the project's still not done. So we continually do those kind of things through subcommittees and through council's actions.
Community center roof and gutters, 85,000, sitting
It
in
was
there.
a total of 150, I think. Doors too, they were supposed to replace the front door, and
All right,
it's just,
That goes back to the vaccine fund.
okay, well, thank you. We're gonna move on then. And I will ask the DPW director to look into that, fixing that rest of that sidewalk. Agenda item number 5, review FY 2024 water enterprise budget. Entertain a motion to vote to submit to council as presented.
Motion. Second.
Okay, so we want to do it the same way. We'll go through it line by line. If anybody has any questions, just speak up. I don't see your hand go up to say something. We'll go through the water enterprise fund budget. We'll start with, the first one is employer Medicare. I'm gonna say that's tax, but it was zeroed out. I don't know what happened there, what happened to that one. Maintenance, 520100, maintenance 50,000. Anybody have any questions on that one? All right, electricity, 145,600, it went up 4%. Any questions on that? Data processing went from 10,000 to 12,500. Data processing, other operating costs, Charter, Verizon, GDP, Rico. I know what Rico is.
Copiers.
Okay,
Copiers.
thank you. Repair and maintenance of equipment, 45,000. Specialized services, 22,000. Any questions? Then data processing, conserve review of town buildings, conserve review of buildings, Charlton, have all been zeroed out. So I'm going to presume that those are moved somewhere else.
I'm sorry, that's.
530300.
Yep, sorry.
Right.
Not one wrong sheet.
Testing and evaluation, 530700, $6,000. There's no increase there. Indirect costs, 531200. Indirect costs transfer to G, Other, that went up, that's at 675,871. Any questions on that one?
Clarify, what is that? Is that the fees you guys pay the town hall for various,
Those are, I believe, our, yes, our portion of DPW building and those sorts of things.
Okay. 533100, maintenance on trees, went from 7,000 to 10,000. Counselor?
I was curious, as far as this line goes, how will this be affected by the tree cutting contract? I'm assuming that the money that we're getting from there is gonna go into this account, right?
No, so if you'll remember, we'd asked the question about the cutting of the reservoir of those trees, about what we could do with those funds. And at the time, I believe it was at GenGov, they said that money had to go back to the water general fund.
Right.
We weren't allowed to allocate that payment to anything else. This money is related to cutting down or maintenance of trees that are on our property that may affect a neighbor's property. That's a butts watershed or water land.
Okay. 534100, advertising and promotional has been zeroed out. Management fee, 1,563,520, 5% increase by contract. Prevailing wage, 60,000. That's, believe that's also in the contract. Inventory, 15,000. That would be like just,
Stock.
yeah. Chemicals, zeroed out. License permits and taxes, 11,000. Mass DEP CDWA fee at 5,500. What exactly is that, CDWA?
We have to pay DEP for our withdrawal permit every year. It's just what they charge us for their services. It's how the state funds the water division of Mass DEP.
Okay.
What do they actually do for us?
They're just ready and waiting for you, Counselor. That's all I can tell you.
I'm taking their cut. Yeah, go ahead.
So, when you say fee, what's the difference between licenses and a permit, that question before? Isn't it that should be included fees? I mean,
Licenses, permits, and taxes is related to any permits we need to pull, or you'll see in the description for the licenses, permits, the town of Woodstock increased our assessment of the tax on our land that we own around Hatchet Pond in Connecticut. So we're paying the town of Woodstock taxes on that property. So that's where the taxes is the big part of that 11,000 of the licenses, permits, and taxes.
Despite the fact that we're legally a nonprofit,
Yeah.
how does that work?
I'm not a tax expert. Our assessor definitely had a conversation with their assessor.
Something is wrong with that picture.
Yeah.
Taxes, other towns shouldn't be paying each other taxes.
Yeah, that's what that money goes towards, mostly property tax in other towns.
Okay. 569300, Town of Charlton IMA payment has been zeroed out. Other charges and expenses zeroed out. Conference and meetings, $150. Dues, subs, and periodical, $150. Insurance premiums, $20,000. Insurance, property, liability, auto has been zeroed out. Other legal, $10,000. Is there a reason why the legal went up? Just,
That's not something we had changed. I think that came down from the town manager's office with
Okay.
possible inflation if we have a legal action.
all right. And then the rest of them have all been zeroed out. And for some reason, Munis had to keep them on, printing them.
Yeah, these are all previous year capital
Okay.
accounts, and we just can't purge them for some reason.
All right. And all the way down to system capital budget, 583000, 180,000. Now, the fire hydrant replacement program meters is at 105,000. And I noticed that last year was less than that, so it's actually an increase, but it's not reflected on here. So I was just looking
That's
at.
a tough one. You've got to flip back to the 23580.
Yep,
Is it reflected on here? It might not be. It's on the cover sheet that does the review of all the accounts.
That's what 23580 is having, as 134, 251.
Yeah, if you go to the budget analysis, it shows everything in condensed form.
Right.
It shows the previous year above and then current year below. It's funny how Munis does that. It won't let the capital accounts line up. You've got to go back up and read previous and then read current.
Okay.
Did you say we've got 180,000 for that one this year? I've got 159.
System capital budget, I have 180,000.
I've got 159.
That's capital, facility improvement, I think.
583000.
Yeah.
583000258.
245.
2450.
2450.
80.
24580, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've got 150,000 for that.
Yeah, I've got 180.
180.
This is a new one that they printed out. I think that's an old
That's
one.
probably
That's an old one.
That's an old one.
Look at the email, if you get an
Yeah,
email.
you got on the
Yeah, look at the
email.
report date at the bottom left.
Right.
Should be dated 5/10.
Nice.
I did request that they print these all out for everyone, but
All right.
since you did yours through your computer, you probably didn't get it printed out.
Yeah, I think that's. Oh, yeah, okay. It is. Okay. Yep.
And I also know in our capital budget that we talked about earlier, there is, I believe there's fire hydrant money in there as well. I don't know how much is left in there, but last year's capital budget also had some money in there for fire hydrants. So I don't know if you take a look at previous budgets or previous capital items to see if there's money that could be transferred over or not. I don't know if you do that or not.
Yeah, so there's two places you might see fire hydrant replacement program. Every year we fund that as part of our system capital line item.
But
the
here's one from 2016, fire hydrant valve replacement.
So that's
There's
in a project.
$25,000 still
That's in a
sitting.
project account, correct? The 4200 account.
6366 from
Yep,
FY
63660. Yep.
Right.
Currently, that account has 14,000 in it.
Yeah.
We've been using that as well to mostly we use that for stock purchases of hydrants.
Okay.
We fund it in a few different places. I'm trying to use this account, the project account up,
Right.
because I know you and I have had that discussion in the past that you want these accounts to be used up and
Use them
closed
up,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
All right.
A lot of what you see in this year's budget will be used not just for hydrants. The description's often supposed to say hydrant and gate valve replacement, similar to what the project account does from FY16, because we use it for both gate
Okay.
valves, all the inline valves on the water mains, as well as hydrants.
All right.
And God knows the price of those are skyrocketing.
How much does a hydrant cost?
In stock form on the truck, it's $3,500 per hydrant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, 583000 equipment capital budget. I see that you have the 2014 Ford Escape on there. You came to us for capital planning for that, and the capital planning committee said no on that because you came and said there really was nothing wrong with the vehicle, just a little rust, but you thought it was a town policy to replace vehicles, and I couldn't find a policy like that. So we turned it down, but now you're putting it in your capital budget. Not quite sure how that works. If we turn something down, and maybe the older counselors can enlighten me on that, if something's turned down in capital planning, can they turn around and then put it in their operating budget and get the vehicle anyway?
Mike, wasn't that the only
Hold on,
thing?
hold on.
They really shouldn't, but you're right, there is no particular policy on this.
There is no policy on replacing vehicles. And you came to the capital planning and said there was basically nothing wrong with the vehicle. You just thought it was a policy to replace them.
Sure. So since my time here and working under the previous director, there was a plan that I had saw laid out with a 10-year replacement plan on light-duty vehicles and a 20-year replacement plan on your medium-duty trucks, your backhoes, your larger equipment like that. That was a policy she had been operating under the whole time to get the town updated so we wouldn't have all these vehicles that are rotted out or hanging on by a prayer. You turn them over while they still have replacement value and before they've really picked your pocket. And that was in our five-year plan for vehicles. We've been operating under that now since I've been here. Every 10 years, and at least in the water department, I believe in sewer as well, we turn over those light duty pickup trucks and vehicles before they become a problem.
I know we've been replacing a whole bunch of them in recent years. I don't think I've ever seen that.
I've never seen
Yeah,
a
so
plan.
since it
like
was in
that.
our 5-year budget that was set forth, I kept it in here. I know it went to capital committee. Just before this budget came out, I actually saw that report from the committee. I hadn't seen it yet, and it said, I believe it didn't say denied, it said not recommended.
Not
And
recommended.
I believe, I assumed at that time it was similar to this committee, where if you guys send something to you guys, it can still go up to council under a negative recommendation. And since we're presenting a flat operating budget here compared to the previous year, I stayed with that policy with the intent of having this discussion.
Okay,
I can describe some more about the vehicle. You're right, it is 10 years old. It is in fairly decent shape. I spoke with the mechanics and the operators of the treatment plant. They did claim it's getting into that maintenance cycle where currently it needs 4-wheel brakes, 4-wheel tires. It does have some surface rust underneath. It really is whether we want to stick with that plan, which I think on our department has been pretty successful, of not letting the vehicle get to the point where it needs a motor or a transmission or major rot repair, or I wouldn't be in favor of, but we can hang on to it longer. I don't personally think that's the way to go. The mechanic in me says that's not the way to go. But that's what this form is here for.
okay. I'm gonna go with Mr. Shenya first, and I'll come back to you.
I think I was at that meeting, and you're correct in saying that it was sent up with no recommendation because it was a split vote. And the other vehicles, or whatever, was recommended not to. So I think that's why it ended up going back up as a non-recommended item, and they were gonna decide to let council vote it. But I don't think it was shot down. I think it was, like you said, it was no recommendation.
All right, Mr. Benoit?
Just a brief statement about replacement cycles. So we had a conversation earlier about this particular vehicle, and we came up with some pretty formal ideas for how to move forward with those type of purchases. The town has been pretty adamant about sticking with school bus yellow as a color. A lot of places, a lot of towns and companies now are going with fleet white. A vehicle like that isn't really per se a fleet vehicle. It has to be ordered as such, but it's not a generalized fleet vehicle. So, for that avenue, if we were to switch some of those, even like the light duty trucks, I know DPW has, I think we probably have 8 plus. Maybe, I know it's probably more than that, 8 to 10, maybe a dozen light duty trucks. The Director's Explorer and a few other vehicles around. So one of the things that Steve and I had discussed was, if we ordered those through a fleet department as opposed through an upfitter, we could probably, we changed our letter package, changed our logo, put the town's logo, changed the letter package a little bit, made it removable at the end of the line. We could potentially get more money for the vehicles in trade-in. We'd save money because they cost us a little bit more off the get-go just for the paint job, because they have to respray it. And then there's a longer lead time on those vehicles. And then at the end of the road, nobody wants to buy a school bus yellow F-350 or a Ford Escape or whatever to throw their kids in the back of. So that was one of the things. The other thing was, all of these vehicles in one way or another are a tool. So they're, as a tool, they are part of the town's infrastructure. So in not defending that there isn't anything wrong, whether there is or there isn't something wrong with this particular vehicle, I think that it's wise for a town as a business or as a business to say that we need to be on a replacement plan for certain things. Our roads are in the condition that they are because we weren't on a replacement plan. Or an upgrade plan. Our buildings, our sidewalks. There was never a plan. So I think whether now's the time or not, it's worthy to think about that replacement plan, or to think about those avenues.
All right. Anything?
Thank you, Chair.
Councilor Dodd?
How many miles on that truck?
Just 1 second.
Probably not much.
Roughly 60,000.
60?
60, yeah, 60.
in town,
Jerry.
You know, it's not.
in town miles.
Same thing as my Explorer, 60,000 miles.
All right. Okay, well then we'll move on. Unless you have anything else on this one? Nothing? Okay. 583000 plant capital budget, 320,000. In this one, the only question I had on this was the SCADA system. Didn't we replace that and use our stabilization money for that?
I did look into that as well. I reached out to the town accountant to get a balance for stabilization, and currently we're at $953,000. DEP's recommended minimum for that account for a system our size is $1 million. So that took that off as a funding source possibility for this year.
Wait a minute, you took what off?
No, so I know the recommendation that came down from the committee was to fund that through capital reserve or stabilization. For
265,000.
265,000, or 250,000. But that would bring our stabilization balance down to $700,000. That'd be 30% lower than the DEP required minimum for that account.
But you also have free cash, water free cash as well.
Free cash, I don't believe is certified. I'm not,
At this point, because
we can't, yeah, we're not allowed to lower this account below the minimum and say we're gonna refund it in the future. And when they say the minimum, they mean
Their bones.
you want $1 million.
So what you're
plus.
saying is that the SCADA plan that you had, you're now changing the funding source?
When I had put it to the capital committee, I had it being part of the water enterprise account, meaning the budget. I didn't recommend it to go to retained earnings. I recommended it to be in budget capital, as is reflected here in the budget.
Oh, I thought you had recommended.
No, yeah.
Because when we looked at your report, you had checked off stabilization account.
No, I checked with Adriana, it was checked for budget,
Oh,
yeah. It might have
Okay.
just been the lines of communication might have got crossed.
it must
or
have gotten
something, yeah.
crossed because I could have swore we thought you had checked off stabilization.
No, I had it on in budget.
But I did check with, before Karen left, I checked with her, and of course, this is last year,
Right,
but free cash, general fund, 2.8 million, I think it's higher than that now. Sewer enterprise, 1.3 million, water enterprise, a little over 1 million, free cash.
really?
And then stabilization fund, 4,800,000 and something. And at this time, water stabilization was only 670, and you're saying it's up to 9 something?
Yeah, as of last week, it was at
Right.
953.
Right, okay,
Councilman Marquet,
go ahead.
where did you get that list again?
Oh, I got this from Karen Harnois. Before she left, I asked her for a report on our free cash, stabilization money, sewer enterprise, water.
If you put me a copy of that at some point, I'd like to see that.
I have it right here. Right here. Take it away, sir.
But yeah, to this item, I had it in budget, because it fit within the budget. The total budget this year on the, in-budget capital is almost $80,000 lower than the previous year.
Yep.
So it did fit within the budget well.
Okay.
So that's why I recommended it for the go there.
So it's no longer gonna be coming out of capital, the
It
thing
will
that
be a
we.
capital reserve, it is the regular rate coming
All right.
from water rates.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. 583000 reservoir and dam capital budget, 29,000. This is for Cohasset Dam inspection. 583000 facility improvement capital budget, 20,000. And then the reserve fund, 100,000. Any questions? And then capital to Charlton, 20,250. I thought they owned their own lines.
So each year we.
Don't
Yeah,
go
because-
there, is that what you're saying? Don't even go there?
No, I'm happy to explain it. A certain percent of what we budget for our systems capital, the 23580, they represent a percentage of the system, so we have to represent their percentage of the system in the system's budget.
All right,
And that's the money we would use like when we're doing leak detection.
okay.
If it's a $10,000 bill, we would pay 80% from our systems, the other 20% from their systems.
All right.
So we're kind of monitoring
And then the rest of it is maturing principal on debt, interest on long-term debt. And so your final budget is 0.14% over last year, which is pretty good.
sorry.
That's real good.
Very good.
And it's probably worth saying that in all reality, we know what we were going through as a country.
Right.
That really represents a 5 to 7% reduction in available operating funds with the cost increase of everything.
Mm.
So we were pretty happy to keep the number itself flat.
Okay.
Motion approved.
Motion.
I got a question,
Yep.
Chair, through you.
That's all right.
Mr. McCall, when he was here, was working on a kind of plan to each vehicle have their own checklist, pictures, maintenance. You guys still in the process with that, or you don't have no idea?
As far as the town vehicles themselves, is that what you
Yeah.
mean? I don't know what DPW is working on. I've been working with the mechanics directly to put the fleet into the same asset management software that we use to run the water department. And I know right now every vehicle is in there, and the mechanics are using that to track their maintenance on it. They're working to the point where there's pictures of vehicles and VIN numbers and all that stuff in there. It's a slow process, because I'm still teaching the mechanics how to use the software that we use to run the water system. But we are merging fleet into that now.
So you aware of that?
I'm aware of it, yeah.
So, just before she left, she gave you that?
Yep, yep,
Thank you.
yep. You could have kept it if you wanted to.
Oh,
Right. Okay, if there's no other questions, all those in favor of accepting as is? Right, thank
Steve, your friend John.
you. I know, huh? Took a while.
Apologize, it wasn't easy, but we got
Oh,
there.
that's all right, as long as we got it. All right. Agenda item number 6, review FY 2024 sewer enterprise fund. Entertain a motion to vote to submit to council. Okay, I guess we'll go through the same thing. Mr. Merchant is here. We'll just go through each line item. Shouldn't take too long. We'll go right down to 530900, DPW administrative costs. That's a reduction from last year, $676,356. What exactly is that for, DPW? Is that for sending out bills, or what exactly is the administrative cost for DPW? Yep, that's fine. I'm on sewer now. Yep. No,
That one, I don't know.
what number is it again?
oh, I'm on page 2 now.
Oh,
Sorry, I went a little ahead, sorry. Let me back up a little bit, all right? I skipped ahead one page. Let's start with maintenance operating. 520100, 75,000. Maintenance operating budget, any questions? Collection system, 50,000. Electricity, 4% increase, 400,400. Data processing, 1,500. Repair and maintenance of equipment, 100,000. Specialized services, 15,000. Testing and evaluation, 8,000.
I go back to.
yeah, why'd that go up so much?
April 1st, we started our new permit from DEP and EPA. Included in that is increase in PFAS testing for our effluent water and multiple spots through the process.
All right.
Are you predicting any, what do you think the risks are of actually
It's everywhere, really. We've been doing it for our compost
Right.
for years
a long
now.
time, yeah.
They're just gathering data. And it's now standard across every wastewater permit
Hmm?
that's getting renewed. Everyone has to test for PFAS, so. What the implications down the line, not really sure. It's covered, but
Yeah, because I noticed that EPA is looking at dramatically reducing the levels that they'll allow down to the trillions.
Well, that's on the water side. That's on the water side.
not on the sewer side.
Right, we're at 20 parts per trillion on water, we only get 8 parts per trillion on water. I'm not
Actually,
sure.
That's actually higher than
I think on the wastewater side, they don't know what to do yet, so they're gathering data.
We're still parts per billion.
Okay.
So we didn't talk about this while you were talking, so what does that mean for us, for our system at this point?
We have a testing evaluation budget line as well, and that's for that. Right now, we're at 0.
Hopefully it's the
Hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that an artifact of actually not having any, or is that an artifact of the fact that we can't detect it? So,
Well, we're lucky that our watershed's so protected.
good. Okay.
It's communities on wells that are mostly affected.
Yeah.
Sorry, James. Gotta be the get under budget.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. I mean,
That's why you pay taxes to Woodstock.
Webster's paying $33
Folks,
million.
focus on beating up James. That's where we need to focus.
okay, thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to 530900. This is DPW administrative costs. I was just curious what
By the
that
look
is.
of it, it looks like it's the operating cost for the facility, much as the water would be the indirect costs. It's listed as operating costs. So my assumption would be that would be the same, just listed differently.
Okay,
Yeah, it is, it costs, okay, but it's reimbursing the general fund for the cost of, say, the collector, the treasurer, all town, part of the DPW director. All of
So
that
not
is
the
just
bills.
reimbursing us,
Right.
and it becomes a revenue to the town in the general fund,
okay,
coming back for the support we give to the water and sewer.
sort of a hidden tax. All right, operations, we're gonna skip postage because it's zeroed out. Operations, 1.575298, 5% increase, I believe that's in the contract. And then we'll go down to uninsured sewer backup costs, 10,000. That was explained to us last year. If there's a problem and somebody doesn't have insurance. Insurance, property, liability, auto, 29,000, or 25,914. Other legal, 5,000. And then Munis has zeroed everything out. System capital budget, 70,000. Root control, private contractors is hired to control roots in the sewer system. I&I, infiltration and flow, 20,000 and 50,000. I did notice in the capital budget that you also have these same exact items. You have almost $6 million in your capital budget from years past. I'm hoping at some point, let's try and look at all these and get this money collected, and because I see some of the same exact things here from FY16, inflow, infiltrations, I&I, evaluation and repair. There's, 74,000, 105,000. Council Steves?
As I recall, while Heather was still here, she was talking about doing an I&I study across the town. Whatever happened to that?
We did phase 1.
Okay.
Phase 2, I think they estimated $500,000 to do a full study. We never moved forward with it. We never started funding for it, so.
Sewer
as far as the-
I&I repairs, $500,000.
As far as the accounts,
Mhm.
previous to Christine, I asked Karen for balance accounts. I worked with DPW and Karen. We didn't get much. I didn't really get anywhere.
All right.
In all fairness, recently I went through that same process with Tara, and it was difficult to get all these project accounts brought together. I just got this wrapped up 2 weeks ago to get all the projects. So I think Tara might be able to help you with that,
Okay.
but it wasn't easy, so I feel your pain with that.
Yeah, she helped me a little bit with it. Well,
Yeah, because you're almost at 4 million capital
Right.
items that have never been, I don't know if they've ever been worked on or have they,
I can review.
Sure, it's not the same
I'll be happy to
amount.
go over this with you,
not,
show you
okay.
where we're at.
Right. All right. So, okay, we'll move on. But I would like us at some point to look at all these and try and figure out where this money is. Get it back into, because we're talking about residents getting an increase every year when it's not necessary, you know?
That's why we went through this same thing to find out what we have and how we can best use it.
All right. Okay, I'm at plant capital budget, 233,000. Any questions on that one? tech support capital budget, $315,000. Odor control, WWTA SCADA system replacement, and $100,000 in reserve funds. Maturing principal on debt, interest on long-term debt, and so your final issuance expense 1,000. Your total is 5,020,115, which is a 1.85% increase. Okay. All those in favor? Okay. Motion approved. We'll be open up to the next council meeting. Yep, next council meeting is budget, the 22nd, right? Yep. So you'll be on the agenda for the 22nd. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Councilor Adams.
Before you go on to the next agenda, there's a lot of issues with our stabilization, I wouldn't say issues. Numbers are not matching on the stabilization side. From what I'm receiving from our town accountant now, and what we receive from our town accountant then. And I think this is what our current town manager is looking into as well. Because the numbers are, when I talked to Christine, it was, when it came to stabilization, I think it was like 3.2 mil or something like that. Yet, I know we've been briefed multiple times at the town council, it was over $4 million, close to $5 million of stabilization. We're very healthy. So I think once we get this and the big changeover that we've had, not only from the town manager, but the town accountant, DPW, and we get in the treasurer, I think we can finally get some sanity when it comes to these numbers, including the enterprise fund issues and stuff like that. So I think that's something that we can address in the new fiscal year as they come along. But I know everybody's watching it, completely watching it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Agenda item number 7, discuss, recommend accepting 3 no-cost speed feedback and school zone speed limit signs through Mass DOT's Safe Routes to School. Entertain a motion to town council.
Motion.
Second.
Go ahead, Mr. Swain.
Mr. Chair, I thought we approved these 3 a month ago, 6 weeks ago. I thought we already went through this.
Did it go through? I thought it went through planning and development or
I
something.
think it went from, if I remember correctly, somehow the boat got missed as far as putting in the submittals for the application, or the application got with late. And then I believe 1 or 2 towns decided they didn't want them. So our number came back up and Peg was able to lock us in for 3. So they're gonna go at the 3 existing locations,
That's what we
Charlotte
voted on.
Street School.
We did vote on 3 last time. I don't know if this is an error or,
I thought one was.
because we voted for 3 at Chilton Street.
I thought one was over East Street.
No, I thought they were all at
All at
Charlton
Chilton
Street.
Street because of the way that configuration is with the
Yeah.
Ys.
That intersection here is a mess.
Councilor Adams, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll talk with Peg and see where this was that accepting or applying for?
Lion.
Was it applying?
Was it? Oh,
Applying
I thought
for?
it was accepted.
And there may have been, I think there was a period of time where I wasn't sure if I was going to be here or not during the meetings. I'll get with Ms. Dean and find out. I'll get an answer
Okay.
for the town
All
council.
right. Well,
Who got it?
So Dave, do we need to vote on this as far as?
yeah, we'll send it up.
Might as well set it up, and then
Send it
if there's no need,
Accepting it.
I think there's a need, obviously.
Yes, definitely.
Councilor Dow?
Thank you, Chair, through you. She came in to approve to be able to apply at the time.
Yeah.
So now it's to accept it and move forward with it, so.
All right. Okay, all those in favor? Thank you. Then item number 8, discuss, review whether to appropriate $350,000 from number 610-450-583000-23583 technical support capital budget to fund raw water quality improvement project. Entertain a motion to town council to recommend for approval.
Second.
Okay, go ahead. This is you, right?
So as everybody is aware, every summer, I think the council as well as my department gets a lot of calls for color in the water. My water smells funny, my water looks funny. And for several seasons now, we've been searching for a way to make our treatment plant work better. We've done studies on different ways to use our reservoirs, whether it's using Res 5 during the summertime, which I think some of you are aware of that, will bypass certain reservoirs. Recently, we did a study of potassium permanganate as a pre-oxidant. I'll try not to geek out on you with all this different stuff, but anyway, there's different methods of trying to reduce your taste, odor, and color in water. Very common for towns that use reservoirs like we do. Recently, we had, well, actually, last year's budget had $350,000 in there to begin the engineering to expand and put a big addition onto our water plant. Because at the time, we were thinking that our best option we found was a pre-oxidant with potassium permanganate. When I met with Time Bond at the plant and their process specialist engineers to go over some of the findings, because they're the ones who did the last pre-oxidant study with us. We talked about what it would take to do this to our plant, what kind of addition we're talking about, and to do a raw water contact chamber and chemical feed addition, we were probably looking at in the range of $3 million or so. Because a change in footprint of that scope would require updating the entire building to new code, as well as the addition you're putting on. With that would come perpetual costs of operating the new system, the chemical costs, the more treating of the water, it's more chemicals, it's just, we're chasing a problem. And in my head, I've already done some research with my staff as far as how can we make the raw water better coming in the door so we don't have to pump so many chemicals into it. And there's different ways of doing that with aeration in the reservoirs or with cleaning the reservoir itself. And this was already in the back of my mind. The process engineers we were meeting with said, why aren't you looking at your reservoirs? Previous to that meeting, I had already asked the company to come in and take core samples of our reservoir, of the sludge depth that we have, and of composition of that material that's down there. I wanted Steve Blanchard to come with me tonight because he was with us in the department before my time, the last time we had the reservoir drained for gatehouse maintenance. And he indicated in certain areas of the reservoir, the sludge was feet thick of natural, organic buildup of material. On top of that, the dam was never properly excavated when it was built in the 1800s. I've seen pictures of rotting tree stumps down there. And just you're pumping organics and a concentration of heavy metal into the plant that the filter plant has to try to remove after. My thought is, and I hope you guys would look into supporting this, is we take this year's money and reallocate it into a potential project to dredge the reservoirs. So this money would be the seed money to get that started, as well as the engineering and design. We would be looking to drain Reservoir 3 in the future and mechanically excavate out all of that original and new sediment material that's down there and get the reservoir down to a base gravel material that's devoid of dissolved metals, organics, all those things that can cause our treatment plant to suffer and to struggle to take out those dissolved compounds that can create summertime color issues when you're chlorinating more heavy. That's really where it happens in the process. And I think it's a better use of funds to clean our reservoir than it is to perpetually try to treat for it.
All
So
right.
we would need more funding in the future. The estimate cost for that project to be $1 to $1.5 million. But as we make more progress, Councilor Marquetti, to your point, with finding funds that we have that we don't know we have, it's possible we can incorporate some of that into this project as well and maybe improve our raw water quality without hitting the water rates.
So the $350,000 was in last year's
It was in
budget,
FY23.
and you never touched it at all?
Well, we've been looking at this all year long, so
Oh,
that's
I
what we're
see.
gonna do. And before we went out to bid for engineering and really commit ourselves to doing this project,
All right.
I said, let's do a final review of the findings
All right.
of where we're at. Let's not spend good money on something bad.
All right.
That makes sense.
So, Councilor Steves?
And then, there's a document we have in front of us dated May 5th from Time Bond, talks about water filtration for a new upgraded polymer feed system.
That's a separate issue. That's a completely different issue. I'll play next.
Next agenda.
Yeah, you gotta look at the memo that's before that,
Yeah.
Councilor.
I skipped it.
It's my,
Okay, I see that, okay.
Mr. Swain? Are you all set, Counselor?
Yeah,
Mr. Swain?
Steve, you said you had core samples done? Would they come for like an average depth as far as sediment buildup?
Towards our gatehouse area, it was very thick, it was 4 to 5 feet. The average depth of the whole reservoir was 1 foot to 1.5 feet. Some areas are very rocky near the shores where there's 0. In the middle of the reservoir where the main flow comes in from the next uphill reservoir, that's where your sediment's concentrated, because that's our terminal reservoir. So the average depth is 1 foot to 1.5 feet,
So at a foot, that's a large amount of water
over 26 acres.
that we can add to that reservoir.
Yes.
Part of, I was at the meeting with the contractor where we discussed, the potential for dredging. And one of the things that we had discussed was the potential for putting in a sedimentation dam,
Damn,
so that it would be easier to maintain in the future.
that does a lot. It decreases the heat temperature in the water going another foot.
right, absolutely.
We've cleaned that up a few times.
Okay.
No, we've never done Reservoir 3, Jimmy.
You have any
That's
questions?
not three,
No. We did Hatchet, you were with us for Hatchet.
Okay, Jimmy, raise your hand, you want to speak, please. Thank you. Anybody else?
Gonna retrain him every time.
Only thing I question, I think it's a good idea.
It is.
Everybody thinks it's a great idea. Just putting it into an account, we don't even know what the new account is. So
I
that's
discussed,
something that kind of
I
like
discussed that with the accountant.
concerns me, you know. that-
Yeah, I discussed that with the accountant, and I said, can I get an account number for this account, so I can say we're gonna go from number da-da-da to number da-da-da. And she said, I don't wanna make an account number in case council votes it down.
Down.
And we have all these account numbers in munis now that don't exist.
All right,
Yeah, that was her view on it,
so you should have an account number for the council meeting or after the council?
after the council meeting. She would take the transfer order, generate an account,
All right,
and then go from there.
Council Dow?
Mr. Chair, I don't feel comfortable to approve the agenda, you don't know where the money going.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a concern of mine too, that we don't know where the money's gonna end up.
We can reach out to the accountant and try to get her to give us something in writing of what the process is gonna be, if that would serve the council, okay, or we can just,
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. makes sense.
Councilor Lazo?
The general consensus, I mean, Council Adams is here. The general consensus, I think, is to support what he's putting forward.
Right,
And I like the sediment dam idea also, but if we're in the general consensus, send it up and have the numbers at the meeting. So we can do, if you're not in favor of it from here, then, don't put a number on it. I think, Council Adams, I don't know if you think,
That's what I was gonna ask.
you know what I'm saying? Put the number, create it
Get back with us.
for the council,
Alright.
and we'll pass it.
okay,
I'll reach out to the accountant on that.
all right, thank you, appreciate it. Any other questions? All those in favor? Thank you. Agenda item number 9, discuss review award of the engineering design bid and DEP permitting of the Polymer Feed Station to tie and bond for a fee of $38,500 to be paid from project account water filter plant polymer station upgrade, account numbering pending. I entertain a motion to town council to recommend award to tie and bond. This is
I think-
similar.
I think actually the statement supports everybody's position. This money was voted on 5/23/22 from the council meeting to appropriate this money from retained earnings,
Right.
and an account number was never created.
So we need an account number, we really should get that.
So, yeah, I can have her generate an account number on that as well.
All right.
What this is, in 2010, when we upgraded our filter units to a different technology, the vendor at the time didn't let us know that their filters don't work well with the polymer we have. And it took us several years of studies and in-house testing to figure out what we needed. We had completed that testing just before COVID hit, and DEP had issued us a provisional permit to stay using what we have. But they wanted a redesign of our polymer station to best utilize the new polymer. The previous DPW director had pulled $250,000 out of retained earnings to fund this. And this is us getting to that work now. And we'd appropriated 200 for the work and 50 for the engineering. The price for engineering came in under the estimates. And we're looking to move forward with that work to get one of these project accounts used properly and closed out.
All right. Any questions? Counselor Steves?
I was curious about how long a time frame this is good.
The scope of work isn't huge. The polymer station itself is maybe half the size of this room. We're talking about a few new chemical feed pumps, some repositioning, electrical work. The work probably won't take 30 days to do once we've gone through the design, the bid, and everything else.
Okay.
It'll probably take longer to get your permit approved from DEP than to do the work.
That is right. And the design bid process, you figure you'll have it all done by the December or something?
I'd like to say so. This will be the first project that Rich and I did out together, so we'll have to get through that. Time Bond will obviously be working with us. There wouldn't be any oversight as part of this. It's a small project at our plant. Our staff will oversee it because we're in there every day.
Okay.
So this would really just be design and bid and permitting.
Okay.
Counselor Dow, you have any?
No, just make sure I have an account.
Yes, both of these will have a
Account
council.
number, is Time Bond the only ones who bid on this?
Time Bond are the one that has done all of our studies related to this, so I asked them for the price for this.
Okay.
It's tough to bring a second engineer in to review somebody else's work, take over a project midstream.
Yeah.
They've kind of worked with us along the way. This would be the final step in the process.
All right, and I'm not sure, maybe engineering doesn't have to go out to bid.
And
It does.
it's not-
I think that was mentioned once before,
Yeah,
yeah.
it sounds like-
It doesn't fall under 30B law.
The only thing that concerns me about time bonds, they always say that if anything is adjusted, if any changes are made, then we might have to increase our cost. And they're always the ones suggesting the changes that end up costing more, so.
It is
That's
a
one I
self-
hope that you can keep an eye on.
It is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
All right, any further questions on this? Mr. Spillane, you have anything?
No.
All right, all those in favor? Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 10, discuss review amendment number 3 for $81,000 for additional construction phase services for the South Street Water Transmission Main Improvements Road Reconstruction Project. Entertain a motion to town council recommend approval, authorize the town manager to sign all the documents.
Second. Speaking of what you were just saying.
Right, and this is one of those where Ty and Bond is the one who, I know reading this document that they put together, they said it was the town who asked for the delay, but when I looked at the previous meetings, it was Ty and Bond that asked for the delay. And that was due to, in fact, they recommended it, it was signed by, I forget who signed it, somebody from Ty and Bond Co. or something like that, PIO. So this is another one of those, well, why don't you just explain this project and then we'll discuss it.
So this is a roads and water main project.
Right.
The water main work is complete. I believe most of this transfer is related, change order is related to drainage, and road work. So that would be our directors.
I believe this was mostly for, this is the oversight.
It's the oversight for that, yeah.
The way that it was explained to me was that this is to cover the extension of the oversight and a few of the changes that were made in previous change orders, where their oversight hours or their project hours had expired, or were, when this was originally proposed to the town back in March, their hours were running down to low, and they were supposed to do the change order to add the extra time then. Apparently it didn't happen at the time, so now they're currently operating without a contract.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I thought we voted to give that South Street project full-time oversight. It originally started at, I wanna say, $170,000, and then we approved an additional $90,000 or $95,000 to go to full-time oversight, and that was the question I was gonna bring up tonight, because if they went to full-time oversight, they're not doing it, because the first day of paving, they were not there, and I don't know. I believe we approved to go to
Hold
full
on,
site
we'll get to
on
it.
that job. I could be wrong.
No, we did.
Yeah, there was full-time, as far as I know, it was full-time oversight.
But they weren't there the first day we paved?
They were there.
They were there the first day we paved?
I was there first thing in the morning, and I believe, Mo, who was the person that was overseeing, and I believe that, what's the other guy's name? Alex was out there at one point during the day as well. Mo was there all day. That's his job, is to be there. He was doing temperature readings. He was checking slips and marking locations for random slips in case there was issues. They keep all that on file so you can go back and figure out where the trouble road was, if there was a road that was bad.
Okay. You all set?
For now.
Mr. Town Manager?
Yeah, it's my understanding that this is actually because of the project being delayed. In other words, originally there were amendments to their contract to have them provide more oversight when we had people leaving and so forth, and I believe the decision was made that you needed more full-time oversight from Tiger Bond. And basically, the work that they've done through date, their amended contract went up to $265,000. The charges through date on the work they've already done is $257,400. So this proposed amendment number 3, the 81,000, will bring their total fee up to $346 if they're right as far as how many hours it is till it closes in June. But in other words, that's simply the amount of hours to be paid for the work remaining due to close out the project as it goes forward. So the total contract, if it goes through from this, would be $346,000 as opposed to the original $265 that was amended to $265. I believe it started out lower, and then more services were asked for by the town.
No, it wasn't recommended by the town, it was recommended by, excuse me, Time Bomb. Because they said there was a delay in material, and then because there was a delay in material, then they needed it to settle for 90 days.
Right.
And so that delayed it, but they're the ones who
recommend the
recommended it.
project, caused that delay with it. But it is my understanding that at some point, Heather went back and asked them to provide more services than was in the original contract. So, the site presence that they have and the oversight they're providing on that project, and maybe even on Westgate, I'm not sure,
All right.
was a result of a request from, maybe not from the town council, but I think from the DPW director.
Okay. First I'll go with Mr. Shenier, and then I'll go with you.
Some of this might be that, wasn't it 80,000, 81,000 that was appropriated for extra spending for South Street, and then there was an additional 100 or 90,000 for West Street? So was there some confusion between West Street project and the South Street?
No, I went back and originally the South Street project did not have any oversight. So we added 170,000 to provide part-time oversight. Then, a couple months later, we added another 95,000 to provide full-time oversight. So,
Right.
Councilor Dow?
Thank you, Chair.
You're all set?
Yeah.
All right, Councilor Dow.
I mean, maybe I don't understand businesses, but when you have a studies, an engineer study all these roads, and you do bid out there, all these contractors, what they bid on every time they come back for extra money, extra hours? Is that like a game the contractor play? They bid lowers and they come back, ask for more money, and just because town money they're gonna accept, we're gonna give them the money just like that? I mean, they bid on a job and is already, we pay for engineering and study. So I don't understand why they're gonna come back and ask for more money if the delay from them, not from us. So I'm not gonna support that tonight, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Steves?
Yeah, clarification here. Under the task number 5 paragraph, they mentioned that it includes a total budget currently of 1,130 hours on either a part-time or full-time basis. And we specifically did both for full-time.
Right.
But it says that they've provided 1,007 hours so far and are adding 380 hours. I'm assuming that they mean, I hope they mean adding 380 hours to the 1,130, not to the 1,007. Any idea which is which? That one? And if they're adding the 1130, that's 1510. If you're adding the 1,007, it's a lot less. See what I mean? It's under task number 5.
So this was So the other thing that we're looking at here is this was dated March 29th. So that doesn't include all of the hours sent to them.
Okay.
So now we're middle of May.
Right.
And I think they ran out of hours in April.
Oh.
So they've been working without a contract. So they've exceeded their contract numbers at this point.
Okay. So would the 1,510 hours then be enough to actually finish the project?
That's what we're being told.
If they've already gone over the project? Because we keep getting these inquiries, so.
The way that it was explained to me was that the additional scope of services that was added over time, apparently there was an agreement made that they would run down the hours that were in the contract, and then when it came time, then they would do a change order for the additional. Obviously, a lot of things have changed since then. Now you have people involved that aren't quite sure how those deals worked out.
Right, true.
I do not believe that Ty and Bond is trying to take us for something.
No, I don't think so. We're just trying to clarify
I just-
where we stand.
Right, exactly.
You
So
all set?
as far as to finish out the project, that is what they're telling us they need to make it whole.
Okay. And they're talking about having it be done by July 31st.
Yes.
Do you think that's realistic from what you see? Yeah.
All right, Counselor Dow?
When they're saying run out the hour, do we have any study how many guys and when they start, who's tracking the hour, themselves? And nobody from the town tracking their hours, so I can just go there and say, we'll put 20 hours this week, and they only put 2 or 3? They actually working on the side, or just standing drinking coffee and they count hours? I mean, we're paying for it, I mean, I don't get it, like, when you bid on a job, you know how much, like, I own a garage, correct? I know it's a little different, I worked construction in the past. I know the job, how many hours will take. I understand it will take half hour maybe extra or half hour less, but you're talking 400 hour extra.
Right.
That's something
So
unusual.
They have, so their inspector on site, Mo, he has to do submit a daily report to, he fills out a daily report every day for, obviously, we can see them at request, we don't request them because it's just a lot of additional paperwork. But all of their meetings, all of those things, those all account for, hours invested in the project. So we have update meetings every 2 to 3 weeks now. I think every couple of weeks we've been meeting on site, going over where we're at with progress and so on. So those are all billable hours for the project manager and whichever employees are involved in the project that have to be there.
I saw a joke one time on Facebook. It was like 7 guys above the hall and 1 in the hall. All these guys just talking, head managers, supervisors, and the only one who's working in the hall is 1 guy. Well,
No, I've been on both sides of that cartoon, so I'm not aware.
that's unbelievable.
Mr. Spring?
I gotta kinda agree with Councilor Dow on this. I asked almost 2 weeks ago for reports that supposedly the town gets from Ty and Bond, weekly reports, monthly reports. I still haven't seen them. So with that being said, I'm gonna make a motion, we postpone this until we get the correct documentation and numbers from Ty and Bond to coincide with this $38,000 they're asking for, because I don't agree with
Yeah,
doing that either.
81,000.
Do you want to postpone it or send it up with a negative recommendation?
I second it.
Consensus set it up with a negative recommendation.
Yeah.
He seconded it.
All right.
I wanna see the numbers. I mean, they keep coming back, more money, more money, more money,
Even if we
more
send it
money.
with no recommendation, I'm gonna vote no up there if I don't have no evidence.
Well, we should, I mean, if we want the data, we should make sure that they send it to the council, get it to the full council, and send it, make sure that we get the data that you're asking for to council, and make sure you guys get it too.
I mean, there's a lot of
There's a lot of uncertainties.
job coming back is number with no specific work, what kind of work specific for what it's going. You know, we just need this much for maybe or certain, you know.
Alright.
I don't think we should move forward anymore if we don't have a specific details or a plan or, thank you.
That looked pretty specific to me, but go ahead, Doug.
It's in addition to the current.
Hold on.
To agree with Councilor Dow, you know, a big part of the overrun in time on that job and the change order extras due to time bond efficiency and design. I mean, that job, the quality of that job is in parts pathetic, and, you know, basic stuff was overlooked or not designed. We did approve, somebody did approve the design, but, you know, they could be held accountable for the fact that some of the delays and extensions and extra work are a result of their poor design, which is a hard thing to prove with the AAA contract, holds them exempt and all that stuff, but
All right. Mr. Town Manager?
Well, yeah, when did you request these hours? In other words, the DPW director just pointed out that they file these, or have all these reports for all the inspections that they do and so forth. So who did you ask them for, and who was supposed to get them to you?
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
I asked the chairman of DPW Subcommittee.
And your request was to?
I asked to see,
Well, you
I'm
asked
sure
it
we
during
can
the
get
meeting.
documents.
I asked during the meeting that I'd like to see their reports that they're supposed to give to the town. We as a committee have never seen them. I don't know
Right.
who they go to.
Okay, but I mean, as a professional engineering firm, I mean, they do document all their hours for any, you know, particular service that they provide, and they have records on that, and they do provide them to the town. A lot of this work already is for work, as the DPW director stated, has already been done. In other words, they are over the hours. The summary that I gave you before was what they had as of, you know, April. And so, you know, the documentation is there. We can certainly provide it if you want to go through the details. But I mean, I've attended a few of the meetings, and they do have the information, they have the records, you know, that they are doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. So I think it would be, I really think that this should be approved. I mean, I do think that this is work that has been done. If they projected forward the work that needs to be done, you know, we have the schedule and so forth. They're making recommendations on what changes will be going through for the regular contract itself with Ludlow Construction. So I just think that it would be a good idea to move forward with this.
Okay, Councilor.
Councilor Adam.
Oh, okay, Councilor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, to the subcommittee. If you're not gonna recommend it, get it up to the town council to have a review. Get the information that we've requested.
Right.
And stuff, don't delay the process because specific information wasn't vetted properly up till now. Just go take it up with a negative recommendation at that point in time, and the negative recommendation is, we're just waiting on this paperwork, and where's it at, and why haven't we got it yet? That's my recommendation.
All right, yep.
I agree.
Thank
You
you.
want to say, Councilor?
Thank you, Chair, through you. I mean, I don't think it's fair for everyone to live in town or residents or the pay, or us as the councilors and the volunteers, board member, to people do the job and come back say, I want to get paid for something you don't improve or we don't give you permission for. I mean, anybody's gonna do it then. I'm gonna go ahead and do extra work and then I'm gonna get paid for it, you like it or not. I don't think that's fair. It should be respect. You think you're gonna run out of hours or you need more time, whatever, make a special meeting. Come forward and let's prove it. It's a job we have to do in here. I mean, I don't get it if they're gonna just bypass us and do some work before we see it, or with the extra hour they need. It might be correct, they need those hours, they need to do those work, but at least have some respect for the people in town, and come forward and ask for it, and then we approve it. But, I mean, this way it's going, we improve a job already done, it's gonna be, everybody's gonna step on us. I mean, I don't get it, thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Just a
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, I'm
Finish
sorry,
up.
I didn't mean to, just not to step on Councilor Dow's toes here, but the fact is, they did have an agreement with the town. The town honored that, they honored their agreement, working without a contract on this issue, with expired time. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we honor our side of the agreement at the same time. That's why I said, even if you send it up as a negative recommendation, send it up. There's gonna be a
Right.
delay in it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Benoit?
So I did see the email that came through in regards to the reporting. It was kind of confusing and kind of fell through the cracks in the last few days because there's been a lot going on. But I can reach out to Ty and Bond and ask them for some sort of a breakdown of billable hours
All
up
right.
to this point on the project. But with that, I will also say again that I believe that this change order was sent to the town back in March and had fallen through the cracks at that time between all of the stuff that was going on in town at that point in time, between my own issues and a few other things. So this was requested back then. Now we are a month and a half out from that. This was before construction really kicked off for the season. And they were saying that we're running out of time on this. And we've been meeting with them pretty regularly between on-site at the DPW. They've been coming down. They've been very open to what's going on. And this particular change order was very concerning to them because they basically asked, are we actually going to get paid for the work that we've completed? So, not a conversation that I expected to have with a contractor.
All right.
So, but I will reach out to them tomorrow and see
Okay.
if I can get some sort of a report.
All right, could you email that to me, please? Thank you. Mr. Town Manager, Jeff's.
No, that was it. I just
All
wanted
right,
to confirm
okay.
that they did send this in March 20.
Okay, well, there is a motion to postpone it. I'm not in favor of postponing it, but I'm in favor of setting this up with a negative vote, so we'll take a vote on the postponement. All those in favor of postponing it to the next meeting? All those opposed? So it doesn't pass. All those then we'll go to the original
Original motion,
motion,
just to vote to send it.
send it up to council. I'm opposed to it as well. So all those in favor?
So, I have a
Go ahead.
clarification. So if it passed with it didn't pass, it's a 50-50.
That fails.
It fails. The motion didn't. So
Councilor
now,
Lazo, did you have something?
But do nothing's not an option, guys.
I know that, no, I know that. So my question is,
To me, if it goes 2-2, it still goes up at a 2-2.
right, but my question, the clarification I need now is, it still needs to go up, but how do
We
is there
could
a
vote
way
on
we
it
can do it
negative.
to send it to a
They're gonna go
negative?
up if you fail.
What do we do to send it to a negative though, to
Vote
you
it
guys
down.
upstairs?
Vote it down.
So we say
Send it
no
on a
at this
negative
vote
right
here?
now?
It would be a no at this one?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion is on the original motion, so are we all set? All those in favor of sending it up?
I think we send it.
Yeah, but how do we send it up with a negative vote?
All
You
those
say
opposed?
no.
All those opposed?
Okay.
I'm
All
opposed.
right, I'm opposed to. Okay.
So it's 1-3.
I just want to
It's
make sure
going
I
no
voted
matter
the
what.
right
It will
way.
go up.
I want to
with a
make sure I
negative
voted
vote.
the right way.
We can vote all no and still go up.
That's right, that's how it
I
works.
just want to make sure I voted.
All right, thank you. Agenda
You're
item
wrong
number-
and it still goes through, right?
Agenda item number 11, discuss review change order number 4 for $134,805 for the South Street Water Transmission Main Improvements and Road Construction Project. Entertain a motion to town council to recommend approval and authorize the town manager. This is on you, or this is on, okay. Mr. Benoit,
This is on me.
okay.
So this was a change order for the amount of sub-drain pipe that we had to have installed into the road to negate the water issues that apparently were not considered when the project was planned. I know that we did install 900 and something feet of sub-drain to alleviate the my water concerns and everybody else's water concerns with the paving, the issues that were in the corner as you head beyond Old South Road, the sections that we had cut out, the soft areas where the water was bleeding out of the road. The solution, right or wrong, was to cut those sections out, excavate them, put down fabric, and then backfill with dense grade gravel, compact, and repave before putting on. That was doing that repair to the base layer before the binder went down. So that was completed. They did run, I don't think I have the breakdowns of how many feet in each area. We ended up having to run subdrain all the way down Old South Road against the embankment. Originally, we ran 100 feet uphill from the center catch basin in the middle of the hill. And then once they ground the road, they tried to vibrate, compact it with the dirt roller. It brought more water out below, and it wouldn't stop pumping. So that, we had to do that. We ran, as soon as we did that, it dried right up. As soon as they had a method to get that water out of that road, it took it away. So I'm pretty confident that that worked. The other section was heading down towards the pump station. There was apparently existing subdrain there that had been torn out as part of the water main project. I believe it was right next to the water main trench. And there was discussion about whether that needed to be there or not, apparently before my time. And somebody said probably not. And then as soon as they ground the road and put vibration to it, we had another water issue coming, bleeding out of the road. So we had to put that back. So this was, this is already work that's been completed, but it was necessary to guarantee the life of the road.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Slang?
That drain you're talking about on Old South Road, which Old South Road's between Dennison and South Street, where's that actual drain they put in? Is it middle of the road?
It's on
Way
the
up?
embankment side of the road.
So it's not under any of that asphalt?
It's in the shoulder of the road.
All right, so none of it's under that asphalt, I think?
Maybe just, some of it might be just under the edge of the asphalt, because we did opt to widen the road a little bit and run true 10-foot lanes for each direction, which it was never before. So we did have to kind of squeeze a little bit to get that 20-foot road up through there. So some of it may be. But the intention is to catch that water that's coming out of that bank.
So, Rich, can you explain, I don't know if you can or cannot, but how come if you drive, kind of confused, I'm not an asphalt guy, I'll stick with lawn grass. I noticed they did 2 layers of asphalt, 2 lifts, 2 layers of asphalt,
Yes.
and I'm assuming there's gonna be another one.
Yes.
So can you explain, if you drive that road now, and you look at the edges of the road, it could be 14 feet, and all of a sudden you see it suck in a foot, and then goes back out. Can you explain what the reason is behind that, or?
Is there a particular location that you were thinking? Because I think we're on the same page with that one. That was a question that
You could see it on the Westville side from 5 Star to
Coming-
Old South Road, and
coming
then,
from Westville to Old South, there is a section that steps out, and I'm not sure why.
but then there used to be one that went closest towards the crossroads until they put that second layer on it, where then they bumped it back out. It stepped in, and then they bumped it back out. School me,
That I don't know. I don't know.
because I did notice they were kinda, the pavement would
Yes.
do a lot of this, and not
So that was,
like a gradual, it like bumped in real quick, like 8 inches on each side.
that was a question that I kind of formulated this afternoon when I was out there. As I drove it, I saw it, I'm like, why?
Mr. Piappi, did you want to say something?
Yeah, typically, that's where they're gonna put granite curb.
It's done.
Granite curb.
Oh, I didn't think we had granite curbing in on that project
I
at
don't
all.
think, it doesn't make sense if we do, but I don't know if they're gonna put granite curb in the gutter inlets where those catch basins are. That's the only reason I could see that. I saw that myself. That's typically you stay back to put curb.
Because I didn't think we were doing curbing at all over
It
there.
doesn't seem to make any sense.
No, it doesn't, so I was just curious why that,
Well, we could find, we'll ask him to find out. Hold on. Let's let them have a, let's have a conversation here and we'll find out what they're talking about.
Might have been that catch basin.
Are you guys talking about something that we should be aware of?
No,
No.
we're just trying to figure out a timeline.
understanding.
Okay, all right. Well, we are having a meeting here, Mr. Town Manager.
Maybe they're trying to get you an answer.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
All right. So because Mr. Pioppi says sometimes they're gonna put a granite curbing there, which he says doesn't really make sense, but that's usually why that happens.
Or a catch basin.
Or, he said that, or a catch basin, all right.
No, because that's where that lot is, where that guy's got his garden and his pickup truck, but there was a structure in there too.
But then it was further up by the crossroads
We were just
when they did
discussing
that
if it was
first
guardrail
basement.
related or not.
All right.
I'm not sure.
You can find out
I'll
about
look at the
that.
plan tomorrow, and I was gonna, it was on my list of things to ask tomorrow. so-
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? Nope. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay. Connie has been very patient here. We are to agenda item number 12. Update on Ellis Road and possibly vote to add drainage to the road project using funds from the North Street, Mechanic Street projects. So I put this on.
So
the-
moved.
All right.
Second.
Yeah, it's possible vote, but I'll put it down.
Discuss it just first.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna discuss it.
All in favor?
So,
All right, so
what do you think of adding drainage to Ellis Road?
I'm gonna save you my thoughts, because nobody cares what I think. No.
No, you're wrong. We have respect for your.
All right, so we're putting in 1,500 feet of drainage on Ellis
What type
Road.
of drainage?
We're gonna do sub-drain, 12-inch sub-drain, I believe, down the hill. Is that?
Well, combination, typically in ground like that, or back roads like that, we use 12-inch perforated pipe, catch basin to catch basin, make it combination drain and sub-drain, try to save some money and get the job done.
So
Work
we're
it
gonna,
out well.
You're gonna be able to do this within the bid amount, or you're going to take some money from the North Street, Mechanic
so
Street?
North Street, Mechanic Street are kind of up in the air at the moment.
Correct.
Because we still haven't gotten a timeline of work
All right.
completion from Grid. So, yeah, surprise. There are some significant concerns with, we're well beyond whether we're gonna pave Ellis Road or not. I think now is, the conversation is, what is the best means to do so without wasting money?
Right.
There's some significant concerns with stormwater. Obviously, there's quite a few properties that are affected that are below the hill. There's also some significant concerns with the water that comes out of the church driveway. I've seen it after rainstorm actually leaching through the asphalt of the driveway and also running down. So I can understand how there could definitely be some significant impacts during the winter months. I was told that there's been a few times that the town's loader's been up there scraping a foot of ice out of the road. So I got together with Mr. Pioppi last week. We did a site walk. We talked about best case scenario. Definitely not doing what he calls A+ work. We're kind of bidding on like the B, hoping for a solid B level work, because we can't afford A+ work on the road. So the plan at the moment is to run 1,500 feet of drainage, starting just north of the church's driveway, cutting the church's driveway and the driveway that abuts that back like 50 feet, reshaping all of that so that we can direct the flow of that water into the drainage system. The drainage system will then, from there, be carried down the hill on the east face of the road against the embankment. I think we plan for 4 structures that'll help slow the water down as it comes down the hill, also allow for a little bit of sedimentation into the basins. Will significantly prevent erosion after the project is completed, and it should deplete the issues that we're having with ice up there. And it should also make it so we're not chasing water problems for the rest of the members of the community, once we get the project done. So
Okay.
I think that it's money, definitely money well spent under the circumstances, because the potential impacts for the future, having to continuously go back and chase problems, trying to keep water out of people's yards running down the hill. This is the right way to do it
Right.
at the moment.
Connie is here. She lives on Ellis Road. She asked to speak. So go ahead.
I think that you pretty much answered the question. I probably have the nicest property on Ellis Road, but I also have the worst location because I'm at the bottom of the church. So all that rain just comes right down into my yard, and there'll be, when we have torrential rains, like I can be up to my ankles in it. So I'm not as I'm just hoping that there'll be something done to kind of catch that water. When I had seen all the drainage, you know, going in and all the culverts and all that, and the church was skipped, I was like, oh my dear God, I hope that like something's gonna happen in that little area there, because that should alleviate a lot of problems that I have.
I think it'll alleviate a lot of problems further down the line as well,
Yeah.
because we'll be able to capture that water before it can actually go do whatever it
Well,
wants to do.
Because they don't have drainage from the church, right? They don't have anything. Because I think when they paved, they just.
They just sent it to the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, pretty much in my yard. So as long as, I mean, that's my only concern. I'm just praying that there's something that can help alleviate some of the problems that I have. I mean, I think that Mr. Lazo knows what I'm up against sometimes.
Okay, Councilor Dow?
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I think explain what
Oh,
before.
did you want to say something? Go ahead.
I have a quick- So we're talking about the south side of Ellis now, as far as the drainage goes. Last meeting, we were talking about the north side as far as drainage goes.
We're also gonna be addressing the drainage concern in front of the house number 94, which is on the north side of the road. The solution that we came to there was a simple cross culvert to get the water to go, a shallow cross culvert to get the water to cross the road and leach off, without having to do any major impacts to the surrounding areas. There was a couple thoughts that were put together about how to displace the water, and I think that the most simple and affordable method, and Mr. Piapi agreed under some duress to my terms of keeping things simple as opposed to not reinventing the wheel.
So, as far as the north and south go, are we gonna need easements to do this drainage, or no, or?
We should be working within our right of way.
So then, is it,
We are working on, the one place of concern is at the number 94 property. So Mr. Piapi has been in touch with the property owner, and we're working towards having the conversation of, right of entry, how to process that water, and we're setting it up so that if there are any further implications of that water, there are future things that we could do with it. But we're trying to keep it simple and affordable at this point, and not overly impact somebody's property. I don't want to have to get an easement on that particular property and run a pipe and split the property in half, because then that really devalues that person's property.
so according to our agenda, it says possibly vote to add drainage. Can we get a dollar amount first as far as what it's gonna cost for both the north and south? And then my next question is if we're gonna use the money that's gonna come from the North Street Mechanic Street project, how do we plan on putting that money back into those two projects that were already voted and approved on last year?
Well, that's gonna have to come out of the road improvement plan, and that's why I put on your possibly vote, so we could get all this information first, and then possibly vote on it, on how much it's gonna cost, where the money's gonna come from, and that's a valid question, how we're gonna replenish the money for North and Mechanic.
So, my personal opinion is that what we should be doing at this moment in time, and I know that we talked about whether you move funds or not move funds, we keep moving funds and so on. I think at the moment, what I would like to do is I would like to utilize the existing contract that we have with the existing funds that we have, and staying within that contract with no change orders or any of that stuff, right? Just clarifying that he understands we're not doing change orders on this. So, I would like to do Gelfwood Road from Torrey Road up to the intersection of Ellis Road. Because part of the discussion that we're having with the work that we're doing now is a little bit of a reconfiguration of that intersection because of the awkward angles and the old island in the intersection to go north.
So that would be where the North and Mechanic funds would be coming, or going towards? Is that what you're saying?
I think that we should use the funding that we have on hand to square away some significant issues that we know we already have on roads that are in worse shape. This is my opinion. I know that, it's been so voted to do North Mechanic, but the caveat to that is I think that there is another method that I think we should rebid the North and the Mechanic Street projects on their own,
Right.
using a different process
Okay.
for next year.
Yep.
And that would not be,
Again, that was something that was brought to us by Heather.
yes,
She wanted to do North and Mechanic.
Yes.
Not something that we recommended, but she was the DPW director,
correct.
and she made the recommendation, so.
My personal opinion on those two particular streets is that the conditions of those streets don't necessarily justify too much mill and fill. There are some elevation issues on North Street
All
where we
right,
can do a profile mill, do a shim course, a leveling course, and then do a wear course on top of that, a bonded wear course. It's a cheaper process
all right.
that will get us the life expectancy that we're looking for.
So before I go to Counselor Stevens, just to get it straight, you're going to do Ellis Road.
Yes,
You're going to do the drainage on Ellis Road.
yes.
You're not necessarily going to do a mill and grind, or you're going to maybe grind it and.
Ellis Road, we're gonna reclaim, so
All right.
we're gonna pulverize it into
Okay.
gravel,
All right, sounds good.
and
All right.
then we're gonna pave it.
All right, very good.
Okay.
Counselor Steves,
So, to clarify then,
we do.
so how much extra cost are we talking about for Ellis and this extra drainage work and that kind of stuff?
Right now, our cost estimate for the project as discussed, is right around $640,000. That's with the drainage, with the structures, with all that. We are having some conversations on how to do things a little bit more equitable to keep each project. There's been discussion about paying time and materials to PIB construction, and then utilizing town employees to install the drain pipe. So basically, we would be paying for a machine to the operator and maybe one triaxle dump truck for time and materials to do the excavation portion and the backfill, all the stone, what have you. To have our employees involved in doing some of the hands-on work, which kind of works out twofold. It saves money off the project, and it also gets our staff more involved in doing a little bit more of the road work stuff, giving them a little bit better taste of doing some of that stuff so that we can kind of expand on that.
I think that makes sense, the more road work you can in-house about it. So in that case, then, if you're talking about using the rest of the money this year for that section of Gulfwood,
Not just that, I have other.
okay, because when at one point, we looked at doing Gulfwood, it'd be like $1 million plus. And I-
Yeah, it's over $1 million,
so at
but
that
that's the
point-
entire road.
I know, I get that. But I was thinking that, I mean, the rest of the contract for that project is around $300,000, $250,000. Do you think that's enough to do that section of Gulfwood? And will that, because that road is terrible, and I don't know what kind of drainage it needs. Do you? Have you looked at that part of it? Because that could easily jack up the cost too.
All right, let's stick to Ellis Road now,
So we
please.
have,
Yeah.
We're spending this money.
Let's stick to Ellis Road for now.
This is part of the same project.
Well,
It's
not
supposed
yet.
to be part of the same project.
Not yet.
But it makes sense.
Not yet, you'll be bringing that back to us, I presume.
I haven't run, so my hopes would be to utilize the rest of the funding to do that section of Gulfwood
Okay,
Road
and when you do, you'll
and
bring
do
it
a
to us.
repair on Dresser Hill.
All right, we're gonna stick with Ellis right now.
But, right.
Counselor Dow,
I did, Councilor Vazo first and then.
you directing traffic here, okay.
I'm being fair.
All right,
That's all.
I know what Gus is talking about, but I think if you drive up at the intersection
right,
of Gulfwood and Ellis,
Right.
four corners, there's this big hole coming off of
Right.
one side of Ellis and then go up to the other side. I mean, the school bus turns around there. You have to see it
yeah.
to really
I
appreciate
kinda like
it.
that little.
But if you're going across, you know. So I think Gulfwood is a whole nother decision
Right,
and a discussion for another day.
right,
The Ellis corridor is
That's
what
right, we're talking about
the
right now.
DPW director's talking about.
Right, you said? Counselor Dow?
Thank you, Chair, through you. Did that road ever have again, an engineering study before we, Mr. Payati, have the bid on it? Did anybody, like engineering studies, or have a plan for
Well,
it?
Amber Clark looked at it. I
It-
believe.
20 years ago.
On Ellis Road?
Yeah.
No.
So, Mr. Payati, just walk up there, look at the road and give the price? There wasn't nothing written down, what was supposed to be done?
Hold on now.
So the whole, the way that this particular contract was bid before, obviously, again.
Yeah, nothing I got you.
Was, it was bid on the quantities. So they took the road, the square yardage of each road. They said, this is what we're gonna do. They did a quick overview, and when I say they, I'm assuming it was
It
the
was
former
Matt,
director.
it's Jordan, right.
Or, deputy director, which is what typically happens in most towns. And they said, okay, well, we're gonna put an allotment in the contract for X amount of drainage repair, X amount of catch basins, X amount of this, this, and this. And I'm sure there was some, handwritten notes of what those things would be to
You don't
develop
have
it,
that?
but there was no engineering. And then the project, I don't have that, no. The project was bid as quantities. So it was bid based off of the quantities that were allotted for North, Mechanic, Ellis, and then there was Coons and Moon. Yeah, right.
So technically, the contractor bid, we don't have evidence what he bid on, just a shake hand and word of mouth. If the DPW don't have a track, if the DPW doesn't have a track of the contract,
Counselor Lazo
If I
wants to
can
speak.
answer that question.
Go ahead, Counselor
The
Lazo.
only engineering ever done on Ellis Road was done by Mr. Stein, who was DPW director 30 years ago.
Right,
He put the drainage, got the easements to drain to the lower end of the wall, the lower end of the road. He troughed it off and that was it. They pug mixed the road and that was Ellis Road. Now, Heather comes into, we start patch paving forever, Heather comes into the picture and says, grind and pave. That's it, boys. She said it right in here. No drainage, no nothing, grind and pave, that's all we're gonna go out to bid for. That's what they went out to bid for. Tell me if I'm wrong, Jimmy, but that's what the DPW director told council. So he goes up there, measures the road, grind and pave what's there, but then when you get there, the Jardine got involved after Heather left, then all of a sudden, there were trees on the road, there were much more,
yes, I remember.
there are bigger problems.
Right, I remember.
So there was a formal bid that was written by my predecessors that was advertised publicly and put out as a formal bid package under, it wasn't a specific engineered project. It was just quantities for the total project for all of the streets. I don't even think there was a breakdown. It was, these are the quantities for the whole project. That was what was bid on.
so my whole question is, can we have something written down? How many draining, what's the size,
I have it.
what's the pipe?
Cost,
have it all.
and you'll have that for the council meeting.
Uh,
All right.
It's from side to side of the road, not south or not north?
This is, so
Because there was a lot of lack of information,
Mr. Town Manager, don't run away.
a lot of information wasn't
I was gonna
clear.
call on you next.
For what?
Oh, I thought you had your hand up.
Oh, just to confirm, when the deputy director and engineer looked at this, he would have mentioned everything. He would have gone out and decided how much, had to be done for grinding and so forth, how much asphalt had to be put down, where the drainage would be. He came up with a list of all the quantities. So, although, Richard's right, I don't think there was certainly any engineering drawings done, but he certainly would have measured the whole thing and based the proposal, which was actually a proposal that people bid on the quantities that were expected to be used on all those streets.
Thank you.
All
I mean,
right.
there is a plan. It was a plan.
It wasn't complete. Like,
Well,
it was
complete.
only a grind,
It was
and I
complete.
understand everything going on, and this is going on for, I'm on 3 years on the council, and we have that issue. And we improve it, and the previous manager, he just canceled it after 9 vote was given. He should be fired on the spot. But what I'm saying, they're doing the right thing, and I agree with Mr. Benoit. I have no question about it, but I want something like now, just was specific word, nothing exactly what we're doing and how it's gonna be done. That's why I'm getting to the point is, can we have something written on our file, what Mr. Payapi is gonna have done, what we're gonna do to that road to do it right, like drainage, protect the residents not getting water. I don't want to say yes now, and then a couple of months down the road, oh, this is wasn't included, we're gonna come back for more money. And what's the, I don't need the specific numbers, but up to what? Like, I don't know how much on those two roads, $1 million, so he's gonna use the $1 million? We can't work blind numbers, we need a closer number, please, thank you.
So the number that I have at the moment is an up to number. And we're working on fine tuning some of the other stuff to try to reduce that number so we have additional funds, so we can still complete the work as necessary, but still keep additionally the rest of the additional funding to do something else with, so we can get something done this year.
I mean, you understand where I come from. I don't wanna put all,
No.
if you have to go there, I have no problem, but at least I know.
formalize all this, you know, I have, this is from them for the pricing, for what we're talking about right now. What was already discussed and, you know, agreed upon by myself as, you know, let's do this, let's get this going.
In the right way, thank you.
So, but I can formalize this, and I can
we
also
see that?
write an explanation report that goes with it, so that it's, you know, understanding what is included in all of this. That way you're not just looking at a spreadsheet going, okay, well, it says right here, tree removal under 2-foot diameter,
All right, we got it, we got it.
Thank you.
Could you have provided that for us? Can you provide that copy to us right now?
Yeah, after he
I can give you this right now if you want.
I like to have what he said, complete detail, the way he was
Counselor Adams?
explanation,
Thank
please.
you, Mr. Chair.
Makes sense, yeah.
Not to make matters worse. The process, you know, I like the process. So, we already voted on 2 streets, right? Got it. We're gonna have to vote to take those off, all right? And to vote to put this back on, whatever it may be, or increase the value, whatever it may be. So if you're looking at trying to get it up to Monday's meeting, you're not ready to go unless you guys plan on voting to add something tonight, rescind that motion from whatever date that was, and be prepared for Monday night. And another thing is, it's really a budget night that we should be dealing with at that point in time. Just get the process all together and come up by the first week of June at the first meeting. And that way, it's all cleaned up and it's ready to go if this is what the subcommittee wishes to do.
I mean, we can amend it on the information he's gonna update and provide for us at the town council meeting. Like every other agenda, we don't have to delay it. I like the idea, and then we can look at it then and move forward.
Councilor Lazo?
They're already starting the job, and they're going by the PRP bid, and the DPW director would like to add 1,500 feet in, some drainage. Very simple, not a big deal, not a lot of conversation at council. Move it up, get it done.
I agree.
So just
Mr.
in,
Piappi? Go ahead, I mean, sorry.
that's not
My apologies,
It's smart, but he's not that
You
smart.
gotta change it, right?
my apologies, go ahead.
oh, that hurt.
Mr. Piappi.
So, in my own defense on this one, being new to this town still, there's some learning curves that I'm still going through, obviously.
Right.
So, my last position as a public works director, things worked very different. So, trying to acclimate myself to how things work here. In the past, I had all of the annual funding for roads came to me. I made all of the decisions. I moved forward with all the processes on my own. I chose the roads. Everything was on me. Some people liked it, some people didn't. It's the way it is with everything in any town. This situation is obviously very different. The town voted, or the council voted to do certain streets, so
Right.
I may have overstepped a little bit due to the learning curve on this, because I was told, get something done.
Yeah, well, we did vote on Ellis Road.
Yes. So, yes, exactly, but I kind of carried it on a little bit, trying to make the job a little bit better. I did commit to Piappi. He has ordered the materials for the drainage. Some of it showed up on site today. So just bringing that forward. And I also need to formulate a contract extension for this particular contract because it does expire this Friday.
All right,
So,
Counselor Adams, go ahead.
just to clarify, absolutely not going to be the DPW director's responsibility at that point in time. He's trying to get things accomplished, I appreciate
Right.
that.
Okay.
But,
Good
that
move.
being said, Monday night we have budgets, and most of our, unless it's an emergency that needs to go up, which if this is the case of emergency, and you feel it needs to be going up, then I'll put it on the agenda for Monday night, along with whatever agenda else is needed to put up there. Just want to make sure it's done properly.
All right.
That's all it is before
I think we
somebody's
can,
gonna go
I
back
think we
in
can
history and say, what
multitask.
do we do here?
We can multitask, we can put this
All right,
on.
then the agenda items will be due on Wednesday.
All right,
Thank you.
no problem. Everybody else, Counselor Lazo, did you have one last thing to say?
No.
Oh, Mr. Spillane.
I have no problem with sending this out. No,
Right.
well, that's not my thing. I just wanna make sure that we were covering drainage on both the south side in front of the church and north side in front of 94, and we just had a dollar amount. I mean, this project should have been done 25 years ago.
Right,
I got no problem sending it up.
okay,
And once we get through this and the budget stuff, the next meeting, we'll try to put it on the agenda to discuss better number ideas, a better idea of the final numbers or closer numbers off of that by then, hopefully, or maybe the following meeting after that, and then we can discuss my other ideas on what we can do with the rest of the money.
Okay.
Or how we should handle moving forward.
That's good.
okay. Anybody else have anything else? All those in favor of sending this up? All right,
Send her up on getting the rest of the information was
yep.
close amount.
Here are the numbers right here, we'll make,
Not open like this, no number, so he promised to fix that.
here's some numbers right here, we'll
But
get
he
a copy of
promised to
this.
fix, put some details on it, please. It should be in the package. Thank you. Thank you.
All right,
Last thing, Mr. Chairman, just before you go on to the next slide.
okay,
Which agenda items is emergency needs to go up on Monday night? Or can any of them be delayed to the following meeting?
Well, I assume this one because I think he said the
No,
contract
I know
expends
that, but wait
Friday.
for the agenda item and.
well, the
when it
speed
comes-
feedback and school zone could probably hold off on that.
Mm,
We needed info on that, whether it was a good or bad one.
All right, then
Come
no.
on.
Yeah, I'll get that tomorrow.
I think that'll be a quick one.
Yeah, that
Yes, we
it should be
want.
too bad.
That's fine.
Chairman,
Let me know.
Got it done.
Go ahead.
but the agenda item we just voted on has nothing to do with contract extension. Doesn't say anything about
What?
He said the contract.
that. I said it doesn't say, the agenda item we voted on says nothing about a contract extension. We just voted on adding drainage to the project.
Right,
I
yeah.
was just pointing
Can
out
ju-
that
Yeah,
I have
that
to
it
get
needs to
that
be
going.
extended.
Right.
So,
I was curious,
Add it.
why is the contract
Hold on.
set to expire basically now and not at the end of the fiscal year? Wouldn't that normally be when it would end?
I think that, so this was this fiscal year's contract, and the work was supposed to be completed by winter. And then prior to that, this part of the contract was not completed, so I don't know how the date came up, but the gentleman in the back of the room probably knows more about how that came to be.
There was a big debate about whether or not with the acting director of sports and stuff, as to whether Ellis was private or public, whether or not we were gonna do the job. So we didn't get orders to start. We didn't get orders to start on any road. The only orders we got to start on were Moon and Coons, and we did them right away. Now we're trying to get something done, and if we don't get going, we're gonna miss the construction season.
Go ahead.
Gotta
So we
get it
gotta
done.
get going like this.
Quit we sitting doing nothing. No, hold on, we've already voted on this now, so I don't know what we're talking
But we
about.
vote on it, Kinzik, to get the information number, not open the way it's vote, just to add it training. I want the details.
Okay,
I think I was very clear. I want to make sure. I don't want to say added draining and then put one drain for 300, 400,000. I want to know specific. And regarding Alice Road, it was no confusion. It was more political and was against Councilor Lazo and us approve that road. 9 council signed on it, and then the town manager. Obviously, he was comfortable to say and do whatever he want and play with other head department games, political games, That's why that road wasn't moved forward. Again, I repeat, that town manager should be fired on the spot when he refused 9 councils' vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're all done with this conversation. Already voted on it. Thank you. Agenda item number 13, discuss road improvement plan and possibly vote to recommend roads for improvement in 2023. I've written down some roads. We did this a couple years ago.
Yep.
We came up with some road that we feel should be worked on. My suggestions were like Dennison Drive,
That's a good one.
Foster Street, Everett Street, Central Street, Charlton Street, and Dresser Street. Those are my suggestions. All
Foster Street is a tip project street.
right, so
So that's gonna get done.
Central
It's taking forever to get it done, but it's gonna get done with that big project.
and Central Street as well.
Central part of Central Street will be done through that tip project as well. You got La Rochelle, you got parts of Foster, you got Hamilton, Hook, all that.
Right.
It's all part of it.
So Dennison Drive, Everett.
Average Street.
Everett needs it bad.
Yeah.
Everett's actually not, it's bad, but it's not as bad as it was.
Yeah,
No,
well,
it's like-
half of
Yeah,
it
but
needs.
when you
I would agree with that.
when the car park on the side of the road, you're back on the center is bad.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Councilor Lazo.
Unless your name's out.
I was not happy with the road plan. As far as I'm concerned, you take the road plan, give it to DPW director, let him sift through that thing. When you have a road falling apart, literally like a whole bunch of biscuits busted up, that would be a priority. And when you have a street like Everett Street, it's not biscuit, it's not falling apart. You go to Dennison Hill,
Dennison Drive,
it's falling apart.
it's falling apart. Yeah.
Going up the hill, going around the end. I really think that maybe the DPW director with you might want to take a ride around town and put these ones that are actually falling apart at the top of the list.
Right.
Because I'm just all done with paving streets that Coombe Street was not breaking apart.
No.
Okay, so when you do the streets, look for the ones that are really, well, Gulfwood Road, drive down here one time, you'll know which one to do.
Gulfwood Road is $1 million.
I'm just saying,
Dennison probably is too.
so don't do it.
It's got to be done, but and I was hoping the town manager would stick around, because I wanted to ask him about a road improvement. Are we taking out another 1.5 million this year or not? Councilor Adams.
I'll accept that. I will, town manager and I had a discussion about this whole process and how it's going. Right now, obviously, the original plan was to utilize cannabis funds. Obviously, that's not coming through as much as but I think a lot of us expected that to get flooded. The fact is, we want our taxes lowered, we want our streets done, but you're gonna raise the taxes to raise another $1.5 million per year, up to $10 million. You know, just because we authorized up to $10 million bonding doesn't mean we have to spend $10 million bonding. My only concern is you have a payment management project, you have the DPW director here now. He's gonna know if National Grid's gonna come in, if it needs water line, if it needs sewer line, whatever it may be. Instead of us this is what we did in 2018 and 17. She finally just pointed a finger at a street. So my recommendation at this point in time is just let the DPW director go through the process and give him a little bit of time for it before we start voting on $1.5 million for roads. There's $9 million in the next couple of years actually in these roads.
All right. Mr. Piappi?
You know, I agree with both of these guys. And the other thing is some of our former cost projections were done by a director who seemed to want to do everything the most expensive way possible. And I think Rich has some more practical, ideas from experience that we can probably stretch the money a lot further and, get some stuff done. So we should let him probably make the
Okay.
decisions.
Mr. Shenier?
Kind of disagree with these guys because waiting until next
Oh,
year
sorry.
or to another tax year, the project isn't going away, the problem's not going away, they're just gonna be getting worse. I'd say we need to give the DPW director guidance on how much money he would have to be able to spend. Take it out of the stabilization fund, take some money out of the free cash fund. You got what, 3.3 in free cash? 5 million in free cash?
2.9, I think.
2.9 in free cash, and you got what, how much in stabilization?
Oh, 5 million, something like that.
Okay, and then you got the capital, which, you
Is
know, you got
another
money
1
sitting
point-
in there.
yeah.
So you're probably with all of it, you got $10 million sitting there waiting to, not waiting to be spent, that's a bad thing to say. But you got money available that you could at least give guidance to the DPW director, say, listen, you got $1 million this year, what streets do you think need to be done? That's all.
I know that in the capital budget here, that was given to me before Heather, or Karen left, roadway paving and construction, we still have another $95,000 in that account sitting there.
Can you send me that magical piece of paper?
Oh, sure. But
Because
it
we're
is from
still
6:30.
stumbling upon
It's
accounts
from
that-
last year though, not quite a year, so
But it has the
it's
account
probably
numbers
has,
on
yep, probably has changed
It'd be
since then.
amazing if you could scan that.
All right, sure. No, I have it on my computer.
I've already sent it to Phil.
You all set?
Yep. So I want to touch on that a little bit. So I know the town manager left. So right now, I know he's been working on a lot of the numbers for all the projects that are currently spinning off. So you got the TIP project, 2 TIP projects. You have the TIP project here in town, Foster Central. You have the other TIP project is the bridges on Mill Street. We have, I don't know if Westview was included in that. We have some 2 small bridge projects that we have grant money for that I'm working on getting extensions on those funds because we've gone through most of the planning phases of those, but haven't settled into doing any bid or any of that. So right now, in the course of the next, I believe, 3 to 4 years, the town has to present about $10 million for the town side of the costs associated with the projects that are already out there. That includes East Main Street. That one's in the planning phase right now. The River Crane project.
The problem is, I'll let you finish, but I'm just saying the problem is, residents who talk to me,
Right.
they say you're doing all these major roads,
Right.
but our roads, our neighborhood roads are falling apart, and we like them fixed.
Unfortunately, they are.
Yes. No, I agree with that. So that is, obviously, these projects that are already spinning out there, nothing to do with I see the cost of things. So currently, we do have some funding available through Chapter 90 that is unexpended. We are getting ready to get a new allotment. The money that we will have on hand would be enough money to start putting a plan together on how to proceed with some of these other streets and working on a plan to get invested in some of the smaller neighborhoods and the little cul-de-sacs that have been forgotten about for years. People are calling often and saying, you know, when's my street getting done? That's going to happen anywhere, but I've been on some of these streets, and they're bad. They're really bad. Little tiny streets that you would never think about as you drove by them are in horrible shape. Those are our neighborhoods in town.
Right.
So I understand that, and I would like to try to work towards addressing all of those issues. Obviously, it comes down to money. The borrowing thing, right now, I think the town needs to figure out how they're going to pay for all of the stuff that they're already planning on before they borrow any money against other things. I think that it would be a value to the town if, we'll just say the council, for example, would recommend to the town manager that the funding that we have available in Chapter 90 not be touched by some of these other projects, because there has been discussion surrounding that. If you start pulling from Chapter 90 to put towards these other things that we're going to end up borrowing against anyway, you're not going to have the Chapter 90 money available to put towards these projects that we really need to put our hands on. So I think that's what we need to look at right now in order to be able to move forward with putting together a legitimate plan on how to fix all these small streets and fix
Okay, but I don't wanna wait till fall, winter, next spring,
Well, see,
and
that's
then you
another
come
thing.
to us and say, okay,
But none of this stuff can happen overnight.
I realize that.
So for me, how this
Gotcha.
works for me, I need to know that I have money.
right.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's the huge thing. And then you have to put out a bid. You don't have to bid a whole project. I don't have to go and put a formalized bid together saying, okay, we're gonna do Dennison Drive. We discussed the fact that we wanna do Dennison Drive. I go out, I measure it, I do the quantities, and then I can put a bid together for each individual thing. an annual contract bid for paving, an annual contract bid for drainage work, and so on and so forth. And then, now you're not having to run into questions of, well, how do I get this other job done? Because I have the funding for it, but I can't do it because now I have to go out to bid.
Okay. All
So, I need to know now or soon, not now, but we need to figure out how the rest of this stuff is gonna work financially, so we can say, okay, this is how we're gonna move forward with the funds. That way we can put together these bid packets and get them out there, because right now, even if we started now, we're not paving anything else aside from what we're already talking about with cash on hand until next spring.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Councilor Dow next. He's
Thank you, Chair,
Patient.
through you. I think the previous councilors, 6 years ago, they have a plan for the road. Dispensers, weed money go through the road and they're allowed $1.5 million every year to go. And last year we only spent maybe $500,000, not either. So I think it is fun there, just we're behind to put those road up and be in process to be done. Councilor Marquetti, why he get that idea? Because it was a lot of delay on all the road and everything. So we try to push. Doesn't mean necessarily we need to. I agree with Councilor Lazo and everybody here, but the reason why we come up with that plan was everything left flat. Nothing was done. No direction was given, and we put a lot of pressure. That's why you see a lot of project. And as you see, we're still behind. We can't catch up. The money we spent, we already reserved, is not being spent either. So it is money there. I know you just came in to the picture. I think if you go with Councilor Marquetti and other councilors, included me, we can discuss what we already approved, what Chapter 90 did cover, where the rest of the money is coming from. We do have a money for the road.
I understand that, but from my point of view, as again an outside individual, but also basically the company manager of my department, you know, I'm looking at, I can spend as much money as you want to give me. We can fix every single road in this town, and that's what everybody wants to hear.
No, but like I said, we have a budget, $1.5 million every year.
But the concern of mine is the town is gonna have to borrow a lot of money to cover what's already out there. Is the town prepared, so how many years were you gonna borrow 1.5 million?
I think every road was approved already. They have a place to get the money. We don't prove no road if there's no money's already set
No,
for
I
it.
get that.
I think it was
understand
5
that.
years.
So,
No, but
It was
so
1.5
if you have
a
a
year.
5-year plan to borrow $1.5 million, okay? Now you're at $7.5 million that you're gonna borrow. How many years are you gonna borrow that funding for?
I thought it was 5 years, but
10
I'd
years.
have to check on that.
10 years.
Yeah.
So you have a payback term that you have to pay that money back. And now you on top of that, you have to borrow all this other funding or figure out where you're gonna pull the money from. More than likely, it's gonna be in borrowing to pay for a lot of the projects that are already out there.
Yeah.
So now, we'll just say we're at 10 million, which is the number that's been banging around. So 10 million plus 7.5 million, now you're at $17.5 million. Along with the fact that the town's getting ready to build a beautiful fire station. We're gonna put in a walking trail that we have to add maintenance to and all of these other
Yeah,
things.
but those suppers, we
I
don't want to.
understand that, but what I'm saying is you have to be able to pay for the $17.5 million.
Well, that's why we wanted to do a bond, so we could do
Still
this.
gonna be paid. Still gonna
Yeah,
be
I
paid
know,
by
it
taxpayers.
has to be paid for.
But then you still
But
have
this
to
is
be
what the
able-
taxpayers want.
Right,
They want the
but
roads
even
fixed.
after the 5 years though, you have to have a longer term plan of funding.
Okay.
Mr.
Yeah,
I
got it.
agree with you 100%. And what you're saying, I think most of the council already aware of that.
Right.
Uh, we
it's
can
just
we
my
can we
concern.
can get your idea and we can meet. You can give us your plan, what out there, what you need. We meet together, you know, all council. We can discuss that. But I think every road was approved already. Every job we have in the process, I think the money is already there. We aware how much money we're gonna spend, what we have, and where they're coming from. Again, I know you just came. You're open mind. You know what you're doing. So far, we have no discussed about your idea and your experience, and we like that, and we like to move forward with your idea and our idea to be able to improve that town. I don't want to sit and say where we're gonna get this money, where we're gonna do this. Like in the past, nothing was done in the town. We didn't move forward. I think we need to be aggressive and do it. I understand where you come from. Let's get your idea, what your concern, and we can meet and discuss that. That's not an issue. Thank
I'm
you.
gonna have to go with Councilor Steves first, yeah, his hand up.
I just wanted to add a little bit to what Mr. Burnett was saying about the fact that first we need to make a distinction between the money that we set aside for roads with that particular vote was for roads that had not yet been set aside to do them. We were going to do them on a year-by-year basis. It does not include things like the TIP project, the Mill Street project, the stuff that's going on down on East Main Street. It doesn't include the West or South Street projects. It includes going forward projects.
But it is
So
Plan
again,
D.
so I think he's got a very strong point that
But-
we need to be very careful and many of those
But
other
these,
big
you already have the
No,
plan
no,
and money
let's-
coming
let
from
him
the
talk.
state
Hold
for
on.
that grant, you
Some
know.
of them, hold on, because that's true. Many of those projects are being partially paid by Chapter 90 money. They're being partially paid by CDBG money. They've got, sometimes it's federal tip money, depending on which project it is. You know, there's a lot of money that's already, you're right that there's a lot of money that's already dedicated to our town to do all of these kinds of things. I think it would be a good idea to get a clear layout of which project is being funded from which source, when, how, when it's going to be done, where it is in the process at this point, when work should actually start. And I think we do need to see all of this stuff and lay it out and get a clear vision of what we're doing. I think I do agree with you that the public has very clearly stated that we want to get some roads done, and there's no doubt about that. The issue is when we see the total sticker price, we need to avoid sticker shock. Because with all, as Mr. Burnett pointed out, we've got all of these other things that are coming due as well that have nothing to do with roads. And the tax rates are already climbing. Some of us cannot afford them now.
Okay, all right,
Chair,
hold
gotta-
on, Councilor Lazo's next.
Just a quick
We are
question. I agree.
in that situation right now where there are people
Let
who
him
already
finish.
cannot afford their
I
taxes.
think both councils have valid points. I'm just gonna go back and steal a quote out of Mr. Pioppi's book. We're trying to correct years of incompetency,
I agree.
okay? So, let's just stop and breathe. Give our DPW director and our finance director, who is new, and possibly it will be a new manager by that time. I'm not afraid to say, we'll start next spring.
Right.
If we have a plan, you'll see jobs getting done swiftly. One, because you know where the money is. He gets the green light with the money. Then he goes into action with his bids. It's gotta be worked on completely to understand what money is laid. I've been sitting on a council now for a few years. This is coming from here, that's coming. Anybody ever put a board up and say, this project's
No.
next, this is where it's funded, and this is when it's gonna start,
That's exactly
and
what
this
he's
is when
saying.
it's
That's what
done?
we need.
No, no,
If-
that's not a bad idea.
If the previous management would have done that, but like Joe Dow said, you had McCall, then the DPW director, I mean, even the finance director, we're trying to find out where the money is. Nobody kept some good records.
All right.
So, moving forward, I gotta say, follow his lead. Maybe it's time for us to listen, stop talking.
Okay. So I guess we're not gonna make any recommendation at this time.
I don't think we're ready to.
All right,
Make a motion on John.
Second.
all right, all those in favor?
Peace.